My name's Andre du Toit. I am a professional speaker for the last 20 odd years. I've had an amazing life. I've had a fantastic opportunity to meet thousands of people over the last couple of years, either in speaking or in training. But the last 5 years have been very traumatic for me. And that's one of the reasons I was a little bit hesitant about speaking to all of you today. I have not been well for a number of years. And in COVID, I managed to pick up stage 4 cancer, managed to survive that. And then I managed to get COVID, and I managed to survive that. But I didn't do very well. And one of the things that happened is I picked up heart failure. So very few of you actually know that. But for the ones that are very close to me, I've had heart failure now for the last 4 years. It's been devastating on my life. The difficulty is trying to live with heart failure. I wasn't doing particularly well at all. I really struggled with the heart failure, but God has always smiled on me and given me the people that I need. And the very first person I want to introduce you to is Tina. She came down to work with me as a professional speaker, and she's somebody quite remarkable. What she's done is that she's alive, and her business is called Tina Be Alive. And that sounds a little bit ironic. So I'm going to introduce you to Tina quickly, because when I started off this process of trying to survive myself, this young lady helped me enormously. And for those of you that have booked me, I apologize, but there were many times that I was really ill, and she covered for me enormously. But Tina, maybe you got 2 minutes. Just tell them what you had, the effect on you, and then understanding what happened to me.
Nice to meet you all. It's so great to see some familiar faces as well as some new ones. So yes, I am actually Africa's longest living recipient of a heart and bilateral lung transplant. Just to give you a bit of background, I was born with a lot of things wrong. Basically, prognosis for my life wasn't particularly good. They told my parents that I'd be lucky to make double digits. But I had a heart condition and lung condition. So yeah, life wasn't always easy. Then that I started to realize I was really struggling and battling to breathe and battling to just do normal daily tasks. And I was about between 22 and 24 when my specialist told me I was actually in full-blown heart failure. Because of all the issues, was pumping faster than normal and it was irregular. Now the heart is a muscle. All muscles that work hard increase in size. My heart muscle had increased in size so much that it had basically stopped pumping. But if I can give you just a few symptoms of sort of heart failure, there are things like shortness of breath, especially when you're doing activity, fatigue, like just in general fatigue, like you wake up and you're still tired. Because your heart is not pumping properly, you then land up getting a building fluid in your system. So your ankles will start to swell. You'll see you start to swell here. And then that also, it builds up in your abdomen as well. And then that starts to give you less and less room with your lungs to breathe. These are the things that I was dealing with on a daily basis. I mean, it got to a point where I couldn't even get up to go to the bathroom. To go to the bathroom on my own, 5 meters away from my bed. So I was eventually sleeping 18 to 20 hours a day. I was on oxygen full time, work and do things within my limitations. And then when I went down to go and work with Andre, and he was in heart failure, I noticed all of the things that I had been dealing with. So I gave him all the tips and the tricks so that he could carry on. So I taught Andre things like just slow down, walk slower. And if you can't breathe, I often used to stop and say to him, oh, look, a bird over there. And I'd wait for him to breathe because I could hear his breathing had become labored. So yeah, your whole life slows down. Even doing like exercise and that, Andre wanted to lose weight and do things like that. And then he got a personal trainer. But this personal trainer has no idea how to deal with someone with heart failure.
Tina was responsible for keeping me alive for about 3 years. So this is not the story that all of you know about, and all of you have different versions of this. But one of the results was that I slowly ballooned in weight. And yeah, maybe the best way to do that is to actually show it to you.
I think a lot of that weight was water. And I mean, you eventually were put on diuretics to get rid of that water to help your body cope.
But this is me just before the end of 2024. I'm a big guy, but I weigh nearly 170 kilograms there, and I can't breathe. I'm doing an event, and I literally can't breathe. I can't walk to the car, so people have to go fetch the car for me. And this is quite a disturbing photograph for me to see, and I'm trying to be as vulnerable as I can, because I don't really want you to see it. I didn't have this photograph, by the way. I deleted all of these photographs. And then somebody sent it to me when I started losing weight again, and I'm glad that you did. So I've actually got that. But just to put it in context, and yesterday I had breakfast with a very good friend of mine, and we were talking about it. So this year I have lost nearly 50 kilograms. And just to put that in context, I'm not 100% sure I could do this. But if you took a 10-kilogram bag of potatoes and multiplied it by 5 and then picked it up, because that's pretty much maybe even a little bit harder consistency than fat, but it's an enormous amount of weight. And somebody said it even better. They said what happens is if you picked up a bag of cement, 2 bags of cement, 2 25-kilo bags of cement, and put one under each arm, and then lived your life like that continuously, that it just didn't, you just couldn't stop. You couldn't go to the bathroom. You couldn't sleep. Everything you did was this weight. And sometimes I think, well, that's such an exceptional amount of weight for what some of you are. But as a percentage of my body weight, many other people have the same sort of percentage of body weight. So I want you to try this little exercise one of these days, is if you think that carrying weight doesn't make any difference, do yourself a favor, 6 bottles of wine, 750 mils weight, 750 grams. Put 6 of them in a Checkers bag, put 6 in the other Checkers bag, hold them in your hand, hold 12 bottles of wine, and you'll be carrying 10 kilograms, and see how long you can do it for. You can't do it for very long. The consequence of weight, as I've discovered over the last year, is immense upon our bodies. So as I started ballooning in weight, the first thing that happened is I became very hypertensive. My blood pressure started rocketing up, and then the first thing they do is they put you on blood pressure treatment. The second thing that happened is I was diagnosed as pre-diabetic, so suddenly I had to measure my sugar on a regular basis, and suddenly I had the pre-diabetic medication. And then as a final gift, I went into heart failure, and that really increased my descent into nothingness incredibly quickly. It was like hell. Tina had left me at this stage. She'd gone back to be with her family, and I was really, really struggling. And in December of 2024, so that is 13 months ago, 13 and a half months ago, I said to Glenys, I can't breathe, and I don't think I'm going to live much longer. I'd like to go to the doctor. But I went to the doctor, and I sat in front of the doctor who knew all my symptoms, and I said, please help me. I can't breathe. I can't sleep. I can't lie down. I'm really, really struggling. And I said, I think if I don't get help soon, I'm going to die. And Glenys was with me. She was sitting next to me. And one of the things that the doctor just looked at me and said, you're dying already. You've been dying for a while. And that was such a shock. I thought, how can you say that in front of my wife? But she said, and I said to her, I don't think I'm going to make March. And she said, I don't either. And that was terrifying. And then I said to her, what can I do? She said, all that I can do for you that you're in heart failure is I can put you on oxygen. You'll eventually be bedridden, and you'll spend the rest of your life slowly losing all of your life force, and you'll be dead quite soon. And I said to her, is there anything that I can do? She said, you need to lose weight, but it's too late now. It's too late for you to lose weight. She said, the only way we can do it is to do it radically. And one of the things I suggest is bariatric surgery, which is where they tie your stomach together and you literally can't eat. And she said, that's it. But she said, you'll never survive the operation. So that's not really an option for you. So I went home. Glenys and I had a very lonely Christmas. Christmas has always been a big affair at our house. Always had lots of friends, strangers, family at our house. But this particular year, we decided it was just the 2 of us. And we sat there, and I was really, really sort of looking at my end of days. On the 31st of December, I looked at Glenys and I said, I'm going to try one last time. I've tried to diet. I've tried to lose weight. And I think I probably left it too late. But I need to do something that will change the thing. And this is the story. Now, my story is my personal story. It's not a story meant for you, and it's not meant to teach you anything, but just to say that each one of us are at a stage of exactly the same stage. And sometimes it doesn't hit us. So for many years, so I wasn't affected at all until I was 60. And then suddenly, as I was 60, all these things started going wrong. I decided to do something interesting. I had a fast. I decided to fast. And you know what we always do on the 1st of January? Did you do one this year? I said to Glenys, I'm going to lose weight. And so what I did is decided to fast for 3 days just to get myself into the mindset of losing weight. The first day was hell. I don't know if any of you have done long fasts. The first day was absolute hell. The second day was a little bit easier, and I actually found it quite comforting because it's almost like everything was starting to come out of my body and I was doing a little bit better. And then I hadn't slept, I don't know, for maybe 3 years on my back. I had to sleep sitting up. And very often I found it the easiest to go sleep at the kitchen counter and put my pillow down and put my hands on the counter and sleep like that, because as soon as I lay down, everything closed up and I could not breathe. I had total sleep apnea. But on the third day, on January the 3rd of last year, I woke up and there was something wrong. And I said to Glenys, wake up. And she said, what's happening? And I said, I can breathe. And for the first time in 3 years, I could take a big breath of air. And I said, not only that, but the pillows have fallen off the bed and I'm lying on my back with my head on the bed and I can breathe. Well, I didn't want to jinx it, so I just carried on. I stopped the fast and I then started eating. And the next thing that I did is, and this is probably one of the lessons that I want to do, is you have to get to a point where you just cut for. I'm sorry, excuse me for using the word, but you've got to get to the stage, and I'm not having this anymore. You're not going to do it. And I had to go right to the end point where the person said, you'll be dead in 90 days. And so what I wanted to do, encourage you and say, whatever that thing is that is blocking you, and if you're wanting to lose weight or doing something else and stuff, don't wait. The only time to do it is what you need to do. The only way that you can do it is not to do it the diet doesn't matter. It does matter, but it's not as important as getting your head straight. And so I didn't know what to do. As usual, I didn't ask for any advice. And so I went to my lovely library, and what I did is I found the Real Meal Revolution, and in it there was something really simple. There was a list, a green list, an orange list, and a red list. And the green list said you can eat as much of this as you like. The orange list you can eat once or twice a week in limited quantities, and the red list you will never have again. But when I looked at the green list, I was so excited. It had so many lovely things on it, like meat was free. It's lekker boeresien, and I love a braai and I love meat, and I thought, I can't believe they're giving me meat and I can eat meat. And then there was all kinds of other things. There were numerous vegetables. Those of you that remember the Real Meal Revolution as a sort of protein only, that's not true anymore. There's lots of vegetables, there are fruits, there's all kinds of different foods that you can have. And that is literally all I did. I just followed the green list. I followed the green list and I lost weight in droves. I was losing in the beginning 2-3 kilograms a week. I went back to the doctor and I said, I can breathe and I feel fabulous. What part of this is heart failure? And she said, maybe it's not heart failure. Maybe it's something that you're eating. And I've discovered that I had so many food allergies. And by cutting out all the food, I've managed to discover that, and so many of you are allergic to glutens, so many of you are allergic to lactose. There's so many things. I discovered a whole drove of things that was stopping my breathing. Yes, I've got heart failure, and I still, even now and then, I think it's gone away, but it hasn't gone away. It's just so much better. But the thing that changed is that I was stopped eating the food that was making me sick. And nowadays, everybody is talking about is that food is not the same food that we had a long time ago. So if you're feeling unwell, if you're feeling fatigued, or everything is not going hunky-dory, I want you to say, just maybe try and look at your diet and just cut out 1 or 2 things and see if it changes. But 6 weeks on, and I've done diets before, and you guys know diets. After a while, you're a bit bored. It was summer. I was desperately keen for a beer. But I stuck it out. And then my first angel appeared, and her name is Jana. And Jana is there she's waving. Jana is the general manager of the Noakes Foundation. And Jana, this is my interpretation of it, so don't feel offended by it. But she said that they were doing a diabetic study through Eat Better South Africa, and that I wasn't diabetic. I still said I wasn't diabetic. I was pre-diabetic. But they took us along, me and I think there were 18 women and one other guy. He bailed out after a while. And what they did is every week they took our sugar, they took our blood pressure, took our weight, and all they did was talk to us. They didn't make us do PT, didn't put us on a diet, just spoke to us about metabolic health, about insulin resistance, about what was happening in your body when you take in sugar. And Jana was the presenter, and most of the things, I don't know if Maritza's here. Maritza was also one of the people that really helped me a lot. But one of the things, and I couldn't find a picture, Jana, so excuse this, but one of the moments, this was one of the breakthrough moments of my year, was Jana showed an experiment, and what she did is she packed the table full of healthy food, nice food, oats and mueslis and granolas and orange juice and all kinds of healthy things. And then what she did is she taught us how to read labels. And she taught us how to see how many teaspoons of sugar are in ordinary foods. And then she would go there, and she was such a con artist. You fooled all of us. She was saying, like, what are you going to have for breakfast? You've got a choice. You can have oats, or you can have Kellogg's all-bran flakes, or you can have muesli. And now we're not stupid. We know muesli is covered in sugar, so we didn't say the muesli. So we took the all-bran flakes. All-bran flakes, if I remember correctly, it's for 40 grams, it's 4 teaspoons of sugar. And what happens is that nobody in their life has ever had 40 grams of all-bran flakes, because we'll take a 200-gram bowl. And if you take a 200-gram bowl, then it's about 200 grams, and now you're looking at far too much sugar. But every time we chose something, she would have a little thing, a glass jar, and she would add in the sugar, teaspoon by teaspoon. And she'd say, do you want some coffee? Yes. Do you have any sugar? Yeah, but I only have 2 teaspoons of sugar. Would you like a glass of orange juice? Yes, I'd like a glass of orange juice. And then I don't know how many glasses. I was going hysterical. Everything that she was putting in there was healthy food, and yet it was riddled with sugar. So this is the only picture I could find that made me look at it. It was like this kind of scenario. Everything that she had there looked lovely and looked amazing, but it wasn't amazing. It was killing us. And some of the things, Jana, I can't remember the exact number, but it was like 1.5 pounds, a kilo of sugar every single person was taking, eating healthily. And so I went home, and I was so offended. I don't know, I turned into a Gen Z for a moment there. I suddenly got terribly offended by the fact that people were lying to me and putting stuff in my food and lying about it, that I started going through all my cupboards, and I was going to goodness, look at this. Tomato sauce, which is supposed to be tomato sauce, is riddled with sugar. I took out mayonnaise. I make mayonnaise. Mayonnaise is egg and oil. Egg and oil have 0 sugar. All of a sudden, I look in the mayonnaise, and it's riddled with sugar. I went through things. Some of the things absolutely frightened me to death. I'm a big fan of Mrs. Ball's chutney. It is basically pure sugar. And I can sometimes pour 1/3 of a bottle onto my food. I was absolutely devastated. And Jana, today, I just want to say, I'm looking on the left, as you're on the screen on my left. You changed my life that day. It gave me the courage to go on and just keep doing it. And the weight came off. And then everyone wants to know, what's the secret? Well, the secret's quite simple, guys. One step at a time. Just one step at a time. I know it's hard. It was super hard for me. But this was I was now looking at the end of February, middle of March, and I had the following numbers of teaspoons of sugar. I know it's quite easy because it's an easy number to remember. I'd had 0. I hadn't had a potato. I hadn't had a slice of bread. I hadn't had a grain of rice. I hadn't had a piece of pasta. I had been so disciplined, 100% disciplined, because as somebody said to me the one day, they said, how can you do this? This is crazy. And I said to them, breathing tastes so much better than sugar. And I don't know what it takes for you guys to get to that stage, to say, listen, I want to change things and do something, and just do something about my life. But I've got lots of angels in my life, and I don't think I could have done this without a lot of people. But I've been very cheeky today, and I'm just going to highlight a few. A friend of mine, she is an absolute boffin on nutrition, and she phoned me and she said to me, can I help you in this process of yours? Because she knows some good friends of mine and knows me. And we also, if I may mention it, we shared a cancer journey together as well. And she said to me, can I help you? And I said, with respect, Tiffany, I'm doing quite well. Johannes taught me everything that you can. I've got the green list in front of me. Nothing, I don't need to do anything else. And she said to me, I don't really do a lot of men. And she said, I'd like to hold your hand through this process. And she has become my guardian angel. She has literally been there for me in the middle of the night. I'm not feeling well or anything is happening. If I say to her, I'm so bored, it's been 7 months and I haven't had a decent dessert, she would go out there and find a zero carb dessert for me and send me the recipe. She invited me for dinner and made the most extravagant dinners for her and her family where there wasn't a single carb in sight, and it was one of the most delicious meals I've ever tasted. But I'd like to speak to you a little bit because it's difficult from my perspective to see into what was happening to me. Tiffany was my little lifesaver, one of my angels. Like Tina was my angel before. I've got another angel. I promise you, not all my angels are blonde and beautiful. Tiffany, can you just share what the process was and what's happened in the last year?
Wow, that story is so powerful and so inspiring. And hearing you say all those words, I'm just so grateful and privileged to have stood by you along your health journey. It's been quite a ride, 46 kilos. It was like watching you find life again and seeing the excitement as you started planning your future with your amazing wife, and how you would show up when we met and you would have a new suit on and your shoulders would be back and your body language changed and your confidence and your unbelievable, just absolute gratefulness for life again was just incredible to see. Andre and I obviously have kept in touch sporadically over the years, but we never really developed a very strong friendship. It was a caring friendship from a distance. But I always knew he was one of the most kindest human beings I've ever known, and with a wealth of knowledge on and talent with so many different subjects. And he's always just so willing to share with everyone around him. You don't even have to be in his inner circle, and he just wants to share and give. I didn't recall, Andrea, how that whole setup happened and how I just knew that I had approached you and I felt drawn to help you and to be one of the people who could finally give back to you after all the kindness that you have shown me over the years. And particularly with my cancer diagnosis, you were a hell of a support. I don't think you realized just how much. For me, it was just that you were deserving of just being helped for a change. Every single day has been a gift, and I'm so grateful to hear you call me one of your angels, so thank you. You know, we live in a very highly addictive food landscape, and it's filled with these like food like substances that are designed to help you just crave more and eat more so that you buy more. You know, there's so much social media of everyone giving advice, and it's just like they just say, oh, just eat less, move more. And that's a bit like saying, well, just spend less and earn more. It sounds simple, but it completely ignores how complex and multi-layered this whole weight loss journey can be. As a health coach, you mentor along the way and you motivate and you encourage, but you work with a whole human and you work around nutrition, emotional eating, the mental health side of things, making sure that the person's got enough me time in their lives, like feel good activities, you address their sleep, their stress, self-care, and look at exercise, or I like to call it movement because exercise can be kind of triggering and traumatic for some people, mindfulness, and how to actually plan for weight loss and to plan for events that could perhaps be just triggering you to make unhealthy decisions. My work is often more about adding things into someone's life rather than giving them deprivation, or I don't like to lead things to lead to an unhealthy relationship with food or food fear or all or nothing mindset. I just gently mentor, encourage, and motivate along the side, which is where I came in for Andre. But out of all the people I have coached, I've never met somebody so incredibly disciplined, and to a point where I actually worried about him at one stage that it was maybe a little bit too disciplined. There wasn't a lot of room for flexibility because he was so strict with himself and so dedicated to his end goals. So I often spend a lot of time with people and their goals, and I call them moving away from goals and moving towards goals. So it's like what you don't want to be in 5 years' time, sick in bed, etc., dead, what you would like to be in 5 years' time. And I think when it came to Andre, and there are many extraordinary things about him, many, but it was his connection to his why. His why was so strong, and it's a great motivator in the beginning of a journey. But it's also what was so incredible about Andre was that he continually looked back to where he had come from. And he was fiercely disciplined, stubborn in the best way possible, but he was deeply committed to what he didn't want to be and where he wanted to be. And he was so deeply committed to that even when progress was slow, he would manage to work through it. And he's just like proof that if you understand your why and you really like go down in the layers and figure out why you want to make add these healthy habits to your life, why you want to make changes, that when motivation does dip, because it does, you are still committed to the end goal. I often used to say to him, like, it's the number on the scale shouldn't be your only measurement of success. How are you feeling? How are you feeling today? How did you eating beautifully today? How did it feel with your sugar levels? Where were your energy levels? How was your sleep that day? How are you feeling in control of your life? Because the knock-on effect to other areas in your life is massive. And he was just phenomenal. And I often say, I know all this stuff and I've walked this journey, and I could grab anyone's body, plug myself into you, and I'll turn your whole life around. But it has to come from the client. And Andre was just incredible, absolutely incredible. Because the weight loss pattern is never linear. There's always going to be setbacks, and it's always important to keep the move client forward. But what amazed me about Andre is he independently was able to do that. He gives me a lot of credit, but my check-ins with him were just, let's see where you are, what's happening next week, how do we plan for this event. His commitment was amazing, absolutely amazing. And before the December holidays, I spent quite a bit of time with my client discussing what the festive season would be like for them. And I was worried about Andre because he can be bloody stubborn and at times very overly committed to push the boundaries of that word moderation. And he can be too strict and almost lack flexibility. And a lot of clients like that will end up going, okay, well, December, they'll either socially opt out of social arrangements because they don't know how to handle it and stick onto the plan, or they'll completely turn into binge behavior, throw away all the rules and decide, let's start on the 1st of January with the whole of Virgin Active. Andre had family coming over, so I knew that I was curious to see how he would navigate it, because it's a period, I mean, obviously everyone knows associated with overindulgence, there's lots of food, and so it should be celebration around food, it should be amazing. And I remember encouraging him to prioritize maintenance rather than look at weight loss. Just fully enjoy the celebrations around you, enjoy your family, and just try and aim for maintenance. He went ahead brilliantly, even introduced a few high sugar foods in moderation, and didn't gain a single kilogram over the festive season. So it was just a reminder that flexibility needs to be a part of any weight loss plan. Otherwise, it's not sustainable. And he just managed that flexibility beautifully. I could speak for hours about him. I could just carry on. I think he's the most incredible human being. I hope the health continues. I look forward till he reaches goal weight. I can't wait to see how the exercise programs that he's embarking on start bringing another form of excitement and health and life to him. I'm truly blessed to call you my friend. I actually want to thank you because I've learned so much from you along the way. So thank you for saying yes.
There were lots of little things I did. I'm very competitive. And I like the goal, and the why for me is absolutely crucial. I think when I got my cancer, I realized that I was not ready to die yet. I'm not afraid of dying. I've had a wonderful life. But I have got lots of things to do, and I've got lots of reasons to live. And so I wanted to be the most of my life. So probably the only thing which I've lost other than food is I've dropped a lot of things that I don't want to do with my life. And I don't know if that means anything to you in this presentation. But there are things that sometimes that you can't do because you've got too much stuff that you don't want to do that you're busy doing. And so, yeah, so that's quite interesting. Then something fun happened. Nobody noticed I'd lost weight until about June, but nearly 6 months. But now all of a sudden it was starting to look substantial, about 25 kilos. And suddenly I was starting to look different. And so suddenly all kinds of things were starting to change in my life. But the thing that changed the most was small half-kilometer walks, 400-meter walks. I used to walk outside my road here, and it's about 250 meters this way and about 70 meters this way. I used to walk up and down because I was always scared I would run out of air. And if I ran out of air, I would always just be within 100 meters of my house. That became quite important to me. And I started feeling a little bit more confident and getting a little bit braver and doing a little bit more, moving more. I didn't always do exercise. I sometimes garden. I stood when I took phone calls. I did small things that just moved all the time. And that really made a massive difference. And then I met my next angel. She's a speaker, and she is one of the world's greatest runners. She does extreme running.
All I can say is I so resonate with Tiffany. All the things that I've seen about you, Andre, about you and Glynis these past few months. I've only known you for less than a year, but your tenaciousness and your absolute commitment to getting to your goal. I've actually not out there in the desert, not out there in the field. I have never seen anything like your tenacity. Never. I'm terrified. I'm really excited for you and Glynis to join Couch to 10K, which we're going to start on Monday. I'm incredibly passionate about, because when people start running, it's not just about physical health, it's about mental health. And literally after about 3Ks on this program, we learn how to run effortlessly. So we learn skills of how to make running feel a little bit easier. And sort of by the third session, I can see the people who were underground or who were under the line in terms of mental health, literally getting that spark back. And after 5 weeks, you can see that people have that old joie de vivre back. You know, by the 10th week, when people come through that finish line and they graduate with a 10K race, I've very seldom seen joy like that, because people have gone through a similar journey as yours, Andre, just shorter, where people believe that they could never in their whole life run 5K, never mind a 10K race. And when they get through that race, they know themselves differently than they did 10 weeks before. And it all happens one little step at a time. You know, where you just show up for the program, and this week we start with 3Ks, and the whole request is run slower. And then the next week we run 3.5 kilometers, and still the mandate is run slowly, run slower, please. And slowly but surely the kilometers stack up, the skills stack up, the fitness stacks up. It's like you said, it all happens one little step at a time. And of course you have the community there around you that supports you, and we've got this collective effervescence, you know, that feeling when people do something they love together. So it's a real buzz. We start on Monday, the 19th of January at 18:30 from the Moody Point Lighthouse, 17:30, 5:30 in the afternoon. It's going to take about 45 minutes from beginning to end. And often it is the best thing people do in their year, because it sets you up for a life of more energy, more health, more success. You know, it's a keystone habit. If you exercise, everything else follows. You sleep better, you eat better, you make better decisions. So you age better, you have greater longevity. You play with your grandkids one day. You know, it's something that keeps paying. So Monday, 5:30 p.m. at the Moody Point Lighthouse. If you can't be there in person, you can join the WhatsApp group, and you literally learn the skills every week of how to run, you know, what to do with your arms, what to do with your feet, something about cadence, which makes you light and less prone to injuries and so forth. And by the way, it's free. It's free.
I felt terribly out when I came here this day, because first of all, I was 1.5 feet taller than everybody else. I was at least 35 or 40 kilograms heavy. You can see me by the size of my shoulders and things like that. I'm a big guy. So I felt much older, much fatter, much taller, and I couldn't run one step because they said, let's go slowly, and they jogged very quietly into the distance while I walked gently behind them. But I'll never forget this, Erica. One of the things that I did is that you've got to get your mind right. So as they disappeared slowly into the distance, I kept walking, thinking, should I turn around? And then I thought, no, I'll play a game. I'll pretend that I'm first and that I can't see anybody. So I kept deliberately turning around and looking behind me to see anybody's here. And I was saying to myself, Andre, you're first. Walk faster. You know, don't let anybody catch you. But I'll never forget, I went to the halfway mark, came back, and as I hadn't even got to the halfway mark, and some of the top runners were coming back already. And the one lady saw me, and I said, well done, you're coming first. Congratulations. I thought I was first, but you're actually first. And she came there and she stopped. And she turned around and she started walking with me. I said, what are you doing? She said, I can't walk you on your own. She started walking with me, and she was the top runner. And she walked with me to the halfway mark, and we walked back, and I could see it was killing her not to run. And then right towards the end, she said, don't you want to run a little bit? And I said, I don't think I can. And then she said, well, let's try one lamppost. And that's how I started. Right at the end of my walk, I ran one lamppost. And I walked 3, and then I'd run one lamppost. Just do that and alternate it. And that's how I started running. So who would have believed the big positive guy from nearly 170 kilograms was sitting and jogging? I have realized I'm not crazy about running. It's not my favorite thing. But I have started loving walking. So I'm coming again. I'm doing the course again on Monday. And I'm bringing a whole lot of people to do it. But just in case you think this is This is just somebody who's just sort of doing some casual thing. Erica Terblanche, she's got some incredible YouTube videos, which is one of the most qualified people. She does psychology. She's a specialist on happiness, but she is also one of the world's greatest runners. She's definitely, in my mind, the South African greatest runner. She's as shy as anything, so you never hear about her, but she has won races like the Cross Sahara, 7 days. Put your stuff in the backpack, run across the sand dunes, and the first one to the other side is the winner. When I started this, unfortunately, I couldn't find any running shoes that fitted me. And I've got a size 13 foot. They don't make size 13 running shoes. They don't expect giants to be running. So we should be supposed to be lifting things, not running. So I didn't have any shoes. I thought I was going to have to walk in tackies or something like that. And then something interesting happened. There's another friend, and she's also here tonight. I don't think she wants to speak. But a friend of mine, Christine, phoned me and she said, Andre, what size shoes have you got? I said, are you a size 13? I said, I am a size 13. And the next day, these shoes rocked up in the post. They're a pair of Nike Air Pros. That absolutely cost a fortune. It was just another one of those spontaneous gifts that just came my way. And Christine, thank you so much. I know it was a generous gift from your side, but the reality is that these shoes were the shoes that made me do my first bit of my walk. And now I'm walking 3 or 4 kilometers, 3 or 4 times a week. And once a week, I try to do 10Ks. And I sit in amazement from 12 months ago, not being able to walk to the front door, to now being able to walk 10 kilometers. And I'm absolutely enjoying it. And it's just become a huge social thing for me. Some of the changes that have happened. From about June or July, I started feeling very dizzy. I even blacked out once. I went to the doctor, and the doctor said, I don't know what's happening, but your blood pressure is so low. Your blood pressure is 90/60. Because I was taking 2 medications for blood pressure. We cut it down to 1, we cut it down to a half, and I am not using any medication at the moment now for blood pressure. I have measured my sugar religiously since the beginning of the year. I was asked to speak at the World Nutrition Summit, which has got all the clever guys, organized by the Noakes Foundation. Jana was the person who put it all together. They invited me to come along and speak as a testimonial about the power of eating the right food and the medical changes that had happened in my body. So just to put them very quickly, I have no more blood pressure. The diabetes is completely gone if I ever had it. I don't know if it was just the food that I was eating. And the last time I went to see the cardiologist, he listened to my heart and he said, Andre, I don't know what's going on, but I can't hear anything. I know I was the one who diagnosed you. You've got like massive mitral valve failure and I'm not hearing a murmur. And so I noticed, I know I still have heart failure because my water still builds up. But Tina, I haven't told you this. I probably take diuretics now once a week. So it's not that incredible fluid buildup that I have. So the changes have been enormous. Some of the cosmetic changes, I wore a size 52 pants in January last year. I'm now wearing a size 40. I've gone from a size 5X shirt to a 2X shirt. And the only reason I haven't gone a lot there is because my shoulders are really broad and they're not going to go any narrower. So I'm going to have to start tailoring my shirts because my waist is way smaller than the 2X. And yeah, small things have happened. And I chose this picture because it just feels, this is what it feels like. It feels like I've gone through the rapids and it's just smooth now. It's like I'm floating. And you know what's happening? My body is starting to work with me. I can feel my metabolic rate starting to kick in and it's starting to work. My metabolism is now doing stuff where previously I had to diet or do something to get the weight loss. And now it's not like that at all. And so what happens is that I'm now just floating down this happy little river. Am I at my goal weight? No, I'm not at my goal weight. I think it's about 13 or 14 Ks. And then I will have lost 8 kilos. And that's my goal. And I'm about 14 Ks away from that. Can be done. It's not an unrealistic goal. I want to conclude with something. I am just so grateful. So many of the angels, and there's lots more of you. And quite a few in the room. So if I haven't mentioned your name, it's either that you were shy. Maybe I can just mention Lisa. Lisa holds 5 world records in the transplant games for swimming. And she has just managed to get me lessons at her swimming school. So I'm going to learn to swim again, which I haven't done for years and years and years. But if I can leave you guys with anything, is that you've got to have a vision. That's quite simple. The why, as Tiffany calls it. You've got to say, what do you want out of your life? And the second thing you've got to do is you've got to draw that line in the sand and do it. It's never going to happen. And every year that passes by there's another year you might not have it, and suddenly you wake up one day and you can't do it at all. For me, one of the biggest things is that I don't think I could have done, despite Tiffany, thank you, I am disciplined and I am very dedicated and stuff like that, but I don't think I could have done it without the Johannes in my life, or without the Hughes in my life, without Glennis and a dozen other people that have stepped in and intervened almost at God-given points, because I didn't ask. Most of them came out of the blue. If you're one of those people who only needs to lose 10 kilos, I see when the guys do the Cape Epic, and you know the guys who do the Cape Epic always go sit there and they say, try cycle the Cape Epic holding 12 bottles of wine. You can't do it. It's just not physically possible. You've got to lose that weight, and it just does so many changes. So Tiffany and I have been scheming about how we can help you guys. I'll be sending the guys that are interested an email and just telling you about Tiffany and what she can do. You know, let Tiffany help you. But I do think I know something as well, and I know the mental part of it. And I think sometimes if the mental part is right, the other part is much easier. And so what we've done is that we are recreating. So this is exactly the same thing that Tiffany did for me. She took me through an 8-week course. And I don't think I would have been able to do everything, because there were so many things. I wouldn't have moved. I wouldn't have learned how to sleep well. There were so many sections, handling stress, all those kind of things, because we have all these things. So we are going to do that. And I'll send you, it's not a sales pitch, so I just want to do that. We want to do some other things. One of the things we decided is we're going to move. And so once a week minimum, we're not going in competition with you there. We're not competing with the Couch to 10K. But one of the most fun things that I've done in the last year is gone for a walk with Tiffany once a week. And every time we go for a walk, we invite somebody else, and then we invite 2 people, and then 3 people, and then they bring their dogs, and all of a sudden there's a crowd. I don't know if anybody's interested. You can just wave like as well if you are interested. But we are going to go walk, and we're going to walk in different suburbs. So one day we'll be in Constance, another day we'll be at Joburg and stuff like that. And we are just going to do exercise, but not exercise as you know. We walk, we talk, we have coffee afterwards. It's just a chill. But that movement makes. But what I'd like to do is I'd like you all to just look at yourselves and say, is there anything that you want out of your life? It doesn't have to be weight loss, by the way. If there's something that you want out of your life, something you want to achieve, something that's holding you back, something that you just know that if you did this, everything would be a lot better. And sometimes it's money and sometimes it's other things. But I want to say to you is that you can do it. If an old guy like me can lose a person in 12 months and resurrect everything in his life, every one of you can do this. My wife wants to say something.
I just want to say a huge thank you to everybody that's here this evening, because I know you've been inspired. But I'd really, really have to mention a couple of names. Tina, thank you. When you were here, you helped Andre so much when I was working. Jana, I'm yet to meet you, but thank you for all the input, because when Andre came back from those meetings, he was like so inspired. And what he told me, I was like, tomato sauce with all that sugar. But thank you, Jana, for also being an angel. And then Tiffany, thank you, Tiffany. You are such an amazing person. Really, you are. Thank you so, so much for everything. And Erica as well. My goodness, you have really changed a lot in our lives. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you reached out to us and we met you. And Christine Leroux, thank you too. Thank you to everybody. I can't mention you all, but you know what? I am so eternally grateful that my husband is so healthy again, and that you've all been a part of this big, big, big journey in one way and another. You know, just your inspiration, being his buddy, everything. Kaki, all of you, thank you, because I really thought I would be a widow the beginning of last year, and I'm so grateful. And the best of all is he doesn't snore anymore. But I'm so happy. And Andre, I admire you. The willpower you have, I lack. I think you've got both our willpower built into you. You are amazing. I admire you and I love you. And I hope that the story inspires many of you to just take the plunge. I know it's inspired me and I have a lot to do, but thank you, all of you, in many, 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 many special ways. Even if I don't know you personally, thank you. There are so many people here. I just cannot thank enough. Thank you so, 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 so much.
There's a lot of people who wanted to do this. I have recorded this. I'm going to edit it a little bit. And then what happens, I'll probably drop it on YouTube. So I'm going to send you a link. So if you want to see it again or show it to somebody else, then you guys can feel free. Bless you, guys.